now. Come to show them where I am. Not nice.
It's really interesting. The movie They Live, when it was made, was more about Reaganomics at the time. But with the, as the music lulls you to sleep, conspiracies, one of the things that the movie has done is it's taken on a life of its own. It never gets old as we see the world evolve and try to make us a little chip. The same thing's happening over and over again. You watch They Live, and it gives you, it's kind of like the Cliff Notes for what's going on.
Well, it certainly is. I mean, you've got the part where the drone flies over you, and you go, hello there, my little friend. And now I've actually videotaped drones twice in Austin watching people at the park. Now I'm actually living and They Live.
Yes, and it's an awkward place to live, I'll be honest with you. John Carpenter, when we shot the scene with the homeless people, he actually used the homeless people there. John is a big activist, and I give him all the respect in the world for that. Turning out and showing what the world's become. I don't know why America has homeless people. It's terrible. But also another thing we had to do was pay off the gangs so they wouldn't come and wreck our trailers. So there was, little conspiracy, little gangs for warfare. Then there would be the homeless people we'd take care of. And it really became a venture of love to a certain point and trying to do the right thing. Again, I give all the credit to John on that.
What is your favorite part of the film?
Well, not the fight, I'll tell you that. That was a long fight. My favorite part of the film, I think when the character Nada looks out and he says, I believe in America. I think that's probably the biggest statement of the entire movie. One thing, for instance, when we would go to press conferences, if you happen to be wearing something like a Rolex, we took it off. Or, John and I both drive Cadillacs, trying to buy American and keep the country safe. And in that shot, you had all the skyline of Los Angeles and the character Nada, which means nothing, obviously, which means nothing. The thing that was interesting with Nada staring over the LA skyline was you didn't know anything about him. You didn't know where he came from. He wore a wedding ring. You didn't know why. You didn't know where he was going. He's that lost American wandering around, and he still looks out over the skyline of Los Angeles, and he says a very profound statement. I believe in America. I do too.
Absolutely. One of my favorite lines is, because I feel like this all the time, trying to politically awaken people that they're being lied to, that there's an agenda. It's not left or right. It's, hey, there's mind control going on. The signal's broadcast 24 hours a day through all this media. Just become aware of it, and they'll say, there's nothing going on. And I want to say, put on these glasses or start chewing concrete.
No, without a doubt. Without a doubt. And by the way, I'm a big booster of you. I've watched some of your Taking Care of America and watched you in a hotel room while the buzzing was going on, and I think you do a terrific job. This is the kind of thing that needs to be exposed to America. They need to know. They're trying to put us to sleep. I'm a born rebel. I can't help myself. I think Shawn might be too.
Roddy Piper is a born rebel? You got to be kidding.
Well, best guess at it, bud. And I've got 4 children, all born here in America. I've got 2 son-in-laws. One of my son-in-laws is a captain in the Army, been wounded twice. My other son-in-law is a Green Beret. You know what? With They Live and the mind control and everything that's going on, there's one thing that can escape people. If you don't have somebody personal to you that has been harmed by not only by the conspiracies and all the tributaries that lead to that, run off that. If you don't have someone close to you shaking at nighttime because he got blown up twice, went over again and got blown up 2 times, then it doesn't mean so much to you. You know, every time we want to go to war, send your boy to war. My boy's already been there. And it becomes with the mind control, trying to dumb down the society, drugging society, putting stuff. I mean, it's a major conspiracy for a new world order. It's no doubt about it in my humble opinion. There's no doubt about it that the world is trying to evolve into something.
Rowdy Roddy Piper. I'm sorry I interrupted. What do you think they're trying to evolve it into?
Well, there's again, I respect you and what you're doing, and Shawn, your opinions are much.
No, but we want to know yours. Don't be humble, sir.
Okay, no, but you're much more educated on this than I am, and I don't want to. This is too serious. I don't want to. This is just my humble opinion.
Sure.
The world has to go someplace. Okay, we've got so many countries around the world fighting. That the world has to get together in some kind of way, in some kind of fashion, instead of killing people, killing children for oil. I had one idea that crossed my mind was, as soon as they let us see the aliens, we'll all get together because it'll be us against them. And you need some kind of shock value like that. Either that or we're going to self-destruct. I think that in all cultures, people are basically very good-hearted. It's just the extremists or the people that are running and pushing the buttons. I think that they want one governmental force to govern the world. It's just that everybody's got their own agenda. You can't get that done unless Gandhi's around. You can't. We can't get everybody on the same page. Well, another idea is if we all spoke the same language, it'd be kind of cool because communication is gone. And then we can't tell when they say obey. You know, we were mad at Russia for how long? But I've been there, and they're pretty nice people. They don't want to, over the Cuban Missile Crisis, if you go back and look at it, Russia didn't want to start a nuclear war. Pretty good people around the world. So what is the world trying to evolve to? We have so many different people, and there's zero population has not happened yet. And we're growing and growing like China. What are you doing, China? The thing in Syria. What's China doing? Why are we sending our boys? Somebody else sending their boys. What's the UN doing? So what do I believe is trying to happen? I believe that a lot of people with their own agendas are trying to come around and make one government to govern the entire world. And there's some things they're going to have to do. We all got to speak the same language, and we all got to be sincere about what's going on and not so greedy.
Absolutely, because you can have the Star Trek idea of a one world government, everybody's nice. The problem is the people running the global government are not nice people, and they want control. Basically, I use the they live analogy, and we'll come back to break and get your take on this, both of you, as the globalists are like psychopaths that are building a psychopathic world government. So the allegory of them being space aliens and they live is absolutely accurate, because these aren't like regular people, and they punch our emotional buttons. They punch our human buttons to cold-bloodedly control us. So how do we learn how the psychopaths operate so we're aware of their tricks, so as good people we can world order the things that are happening? Do you have hope for your children and your grandchildren?
Oof. I guess I'm the only one that's got children between the two of us, huh? I'm a little afraid for my youngest. I've got 4 children, most beautiful children in the world, in my opinion. And the youngest just is going to PSU to become a doctor. And they're all over this kind of thing. She's very aware. Fallon is my youngest. She's 18 years old. She's very aware of what's going on in the world. The internet, you know, I'm from the generation before computers, and the internet's got so much information that the thing is, the kids, they're targeting the kids, and they're telling them how to think. They're dumbing them down in school. For instance, when my kids were in school, they had like no paper day. For a dad who makes a living wrestling with his body, when I go to feed my family, and all of a sudden you've got a school that has no paper for my kids. So why do you have no? Well, you see, it all starts with the kids, and as you get older and a little wiser, you're harder to fool. But you put up another pop idol for the kids. Put up another piece of music that maybe is nothing but vulgarity for the kids. You know, bang it into them. You know, I can remember, I think you know the Brunswick Affair probably, Alan.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and for those who don't know about the Brunswick Affair, very quickly, about, I think, in the early 60s, they had a TV called the Brunswick. And the people that bought it, Dad would go to work, Mom would be there, and Dad would come back home, and all of a sudden she'd bought 20 pounds of dog food, but they don't have a dog. And they found out that there was a little button in the TV called the Brunswick. And when the commercials came on, they did something that shot out these waves and made you buy. That's in the early 60s. Can you imagine how sophisticated they are now? Holy cow. So if they had that kind of mind control back then, the only reason I think that I'm not a good case study for them is because I was a born gypsy. I don't really there's no place to halter me, and I'm not afraid to speak out. But they're my children. And you say, what do I worry about my children? And I have 5 grandchildren. And I'm very worried about them because the earth is not stable right now.
Absolutely, because it's being run by control freak psychopaths that might as well be space aliens from another planet. And you raise the whole point about mind control. In the 40s, they would put subliminal ads in movie theaters and double sales of Coca-Cola. And now it's so much more high-tech, and it's working on the zombified public, but there is a minority that it actually has the opposite effect on. And I want to talk about that in the long segment when we come back, and also open the phones up for questions on They Live. Before the break, dealing with the nature of reality, dealing with, you know, all the points that are being basically put out there by the media. What do you think at the bottom of the rabbit hole? What do you think's really going on, and dovetailing it with They Live?
Right, so many variables. First of all, just before the break, you were saying, why does it control some people, and why does somebody like myself or maybe Shawn it doesn't control? And with They Live, the character Nada was based very much on my life. I don't come from any place. I was born in a place called Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, coldest place on earth, and I was moved all over the world till I was 13, and I went out by myself. And then I got into a business with no rules. Pro wrestling at 15, no rules at all. You could do, the only thing is, you know, you had to survive it. So I wasn't raised under the institution. I wasn't there to program every day. They got to hit you every day. I understand on the signs, but in my particular case, my job was to make you angry. And so I was doing a lot of subliminal things in my interviews. And from my own business, I know what it is to control somebody. It's like when the radio first came out, and people that would sit by the radio and like, what was it, Seabiscuit, would listen to the race, or Joe Louis was Max Schmeling, I can't remember the other guy's name.
The boxing. Yeah.
They would all tune into the radio because it was like this unbelievable device. And then when television came on, one of the hottest shows was pro wrestling because it was easily produced, and it's an international language. But within my ranks, there are no rules, so you can't program me. And then once you get a little older, and I've seen people that are programmed, you learn how they do that. And it becomes evident that the different things that they do in the government, questions you're not allowed to ask. Jesse Ventura is a good friend of mine, been a tag team partner, and Jesse told me they gave Jesse a lot of, they wanted to know how Jesse got to be governor. You know, and Jesse himself had told me about a situation he got into where these government officials came and took him underground and started asking him questions. They just didn't realize Jesse's not afraid. And Jesse Ventura lives in Mexico. I talk to him as often as I can. So Jesse's not a programmable guy either. And Shawn, yeah. I don't...
Absolutely. Governor Ventura is going to be on the 27th before he starts his whole media tour in the month of October. Very excited. He's got a new book on JFK coming out. And I think you just answered my question there that I said at the beginning of the break, and I was going to reintroduce. What makes those of us that are immune or resistant to the programming? And I think it's that we grew up as individuals, and we grew up and had a brush with the streets. I grew up in a middle-class area, but for whatever reason, there was a lot of fights, a lot of corrupt police, government drug dealing, a lot of police running hookers, you name it. And I grew up, you know, watching this going on in my neighborhood, and then watching the same cops give speeches against drug use at school, and I called them out, and they threatened to kill me and stuff. But I think that was kind of my wake-up was I put the sunglasses on because I saw the other side and saw how naive everybody is, and I think you said it best. They want to get the youth, dumb them down, make it all a bunch of political correctness to where the kids don't even know how to make a sandwich. They're not allowed to get in a fist fight to learn how to defend themselves. They're not allowed to play dodgeball. They're at school till 8 o'clock now because parents got to work 2 jobs. They are attacking our basic humanity because a basic human is not going to be a slave.
Yeah. You know, Alex, what's interesting, I'm listening to how the discourse is always they, right? And the funny thing is, they live. Who is they? People always say, who is they? You know, the conspiracy theorists, we're always saying they. And what's interesting about what you're saying and what Rod was saying, all of us, I think, come across this corruption at some point in our lives, right? And it's not just, the fact of traveling is amazing, obviously. When you get brushed with the streets, it's amazing. But at the end of the day, we all come across corruption. We all see the corruption in the police force. We all see corruption in schools, in our own family, right? The question is, do we go along to get along? Or do we start to point it out? Now, those of us who are more inclined toward justice and whatnot, we want to see the good thing happen. But there's still this factor in the film that we haven't talked about yet, and that is there are sociopaths. There are people, this part of the population that have no emotion. They are not human. And I think the human race that has not yet come to terms with the fact that there are 10% of the population that are sociopathic, that do not have human emotion or boundaries, and they are not human. So when we say, hey, we'll give him a pass, he's human, hey, he can, you know, he made a mistake, we're not understanding that fundamentally the they we're talking about is a small percentage of the population that does not care about humanity.
They live...
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.